Welcome to our Ask the Expert video series. I'm Colleen Miller. I'm the director of the Disability Law Center of Virginia. The Disability Law Center of Virginia is the Commonwealth's designated protection and advocacy system. We're here to promote and protect the rights of people with disabilities throughout the Commonwealth. One of the ways that we do that is through education and outreach about disability rights issues. So this is your chance to ask the expert. Let's ask the expert about advanced directives.
Hi everyone, welcome back to DLCV's video series on advanced directives. I'm Dana Trainum, a senior staff attorney at DLCV. We hope you've already had a chance to watch our videos on capacity and the parts of an advanced directive. If you haven't, you may want to go back and watch those first, because today we'll be talking about making an advanced directive.
What is an advanced directive supposed to look like? Do I need to fill out a form, or is it something I can type up by myself?
An advanced directive can look almost any way you want it to look. Virginia lawmakers wanted as many people as possible to be able to make an advanced directive, so they made the process easy. As long as your advanced directive has a couple of key features, it can be a legally valid document.
What exactly does an advanced directive need to be legally valid?
To be legally valid in Virginia, your advanced directive must be signed and dated by you and 2 adult witnesses.
That's it?
According to the Virginia Healthcare Decisions Act, that's it.
If there's no one form I have to use, and I don't have to pay a lawyer to get one, does that mean I could just write anything and it would be legally binding?
Well, yes and no. Technically, you can include anything you want in your advanced directive and do it in any format that you choose. However, healthcare professionals are not legally required to honor everything you put in your advanced directive. In a previous video, we talked about emergencies and how your advanced directive may not be followed if you're in a situation that poses a direct threat to you or someone else. So that's one instance when healthcare providers are not required to honor everything. Providers are also not required to honor your preferences if they think you're asking them to do something that's illegal or unethical.
But what if I want to be treated with something outside of the medical norm, like acupuncture or massage?
You can express your preferences, but the doctors don't necessarily have to follow them. Like we said in our last video, treatment preferences aren't legally binding in the way that instructions or refusals are. Think about it this way. You can't legally force your doctor to do something that he doesn't want to do, and your doctor can't legally force you to do something that you don't want to do, except in some emergency situations. Let's look at an example. Let's say I put in my advanced directive that if I have an anxiety attack while I'm in the hospital, I want healthcare providers to allow me to smoke marijuana because that calms me down. While using marijuana might calm me down, the hospital staff don't have to honor this preference because smoking marijuana is illegal in Virginia, at least as of today. Mom, if you're watching this, don't worry, it's just hypothetical. Now, let's talk about your example, massage. In my advanced directive, I say that if I'm in the hospital, I want a massage every day because it has incredible healing powers. Well, that may be true. But the hospital's not required to create a service for me that it does normally not provide for others just because I put it in my advanced directive. It doesn't mean I can't include that preference. It just means that healthcare providers are not legally required to provide everything I ask for. If a doctor knows that massage is helpful to me, he may refer me to an occupational therapist who can show me how to do self-massage as a calming and healing technique.
It seems to me that most doctors would think treating someone with acupuncture or alternative medicine was unethical.
Well, some doctors might see it as unethical, but some might not. If you have a strong reason for wanting a type of alternative medicine as a treatment, you need to make sure that you note that in your advanced directive. Also, whether it's a preference or a refusal, it's a good idea to include information on why you make a particular treatment decision. So your providers can do what's best for you and know what they need to do. If one doctor doesn't feel comfortable with your treatment choice, he really should refer you to another doctor who would be.
I guess making an advanced directive might be more complicated than I thought.
It's really not complicated. It can be quite comprehensive if you choose for it to be. You can make it as simple or as comprehensive as you want. I do recommend using a form, though, that helps you figure out what you want to include and to do so in an organized manner.
But I thought you said there wasn't an official advance directive form.
Right. Virginia's Healthcare Decisions Act, that's the law that defines how advance directives operate in Virginia. It doesn't designate an official required form for advance directives. What it does do is it sets out information that can be included in your advance directive. DLCV created this form. We think it does a good job of efficiently covering everything advance directives can do.
But what if I want to use a different form?
You should use the form that feels right for you. If DLCV's advance directive form doesn't meet your needs, we encourage you to find a different one that does. Advance directive forms are designed to be customized, so you can find a form that meets 100% of your needs. You can add in sections that are important to you or skip sections that aren't. VirginiaAdvanceDirectives.org is a website that is a great resource on advance directives. They have collected a number of advance directive forms that you might find helpful.
I have a wrap plan that already includes everything I want in my advance directive. Can my wrap plan just be my advance directive?
Wait a minute. What's a wrap?
A wrap plan, it stands for a Wellness Recovery Action Plan, and it's a type of crisis plan often used by people in mental health recovery. And the process of making a wrap plan or any crisis plan is very involved, and it leads people to think about their mental health care needs. If you want advanced care planning that mostly or only addresses mental health, using your wrap might be a good option for you. A wrap plan by itself is not a legal document, but it can become your advance directive if you make sure that it's signed, dated, and witnessed by 2 other adults.
I want to make sure my medical needs are taken care of, not just my mental health.
In that case, you may want to attach your crisis plan to your advance directive. You can note in many advance directive forms, including ours, that you have done so. You can also add language to your crisis plan that addresses medical care.
Dana, I'm still interested in making my wishes known through an advance directive. But I'm still not sure I'm comfortable doing it on my own. Is there anybody that can help me make my advance directive?
Absolutely. The idea of making a legal document like an advance directive, it can feel pretty overwhelming. A lot of people benefit from getting outside help with their advance directive. We like to call these people helpers or advance directive facilitators.
So who exactly can help me make or facilitate my AD?
Generally, if someone's not comfortable doing an advance directive on their own, they can get help from an attorney or a healthcare provider. A healthcare provider can be someone other than a doctor. You may talk to a case manager or a social worker in a hospital. As long as the person helping you works for or volunteers for a healthcare provider, that person can help you. And remember, healthcare provider includes mental health care providers, so employees of a community services board can help you. Some people may feel more comfortable talking to a peer about these issues rather than a healthcare provider. There are specially trained advance directive peer facilitators in many areas of the state. You can find a list of these trained peer facilitators at the website virginiaadvancedirectives.org.
In video 1, you said it can be a good idea to make an advance directive during or after a stay in the hospital. Because if you're in the hospital, you're probably thinking about the health care that does or doesn't work for you. Who can help me with my advance directive if I'm in the hospital?
That's a great question. When you get admitted to the hospital, staff are supposed to ask you if you have an advance directive. If you don't have one, they're supposed to offer you a form and help you make one. It's a really great idea, but when someone is having an emergency that gets them admitted to the hospital, making an advance directive might not feel like a priority right then. If you're interested in completing an advance directive, you can ask a trusted staff member if they can help you. Some facilities may designate specific employees to help with advance directives. Other facilities might not offer their staff appropriate training, to help residents with advanced directives, and if this is the case, they should be able to refer you to someone who can help.
I'm not sure I'd be comfortable speaking with hospital staff about that kind of stuff. Wouldn't they think I was criticizing them?
Effective communication is really important. So if you feel you're able to communicate to a staff in the hospital, that's great. If it's something you're not comfortable with, you can call DLCV or another agency for help or resources instead of talking to that person. You can also wait and talk to one of your regular healthcare providers when you're back in the community. It's important to remember that these are your wishes, and you have the right to express them. The individuals went home and worked on their advanced directive. We met 1 week later to discuss their progress. Welcome back. Were you all able to finish your advanced directives?
It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I was able to use a form and do it at home.
Great.
I had my case manager help me. Some of the questions were hard to think about, but I'm glad I got it done.
Great.
So now that we have our advanced directives, what exactly are we supposed to do with it?
Great question. An advanced directive can't really help you if nobody knows about it. You need to make sure that your agent and your doctors know you have an advanced directive and how they can find it in an emergency.
I gave my agent and my successor agent paper copies of my advanced directives, but what if I go to the hospital and my agent isn't there with me?
Well, the best way to make your advanced directive available to healthcare providers is through the Virginia Advanced Directive Registry. Registering your advanced directive through this site is free, and you can find it at www.connectvirginia.org. When you go to register your advanced directive on that site, you will be asked to provide your name and contact information. You'll need to create a PIN number that will give your healthcare providers read-only access to your advanced directive, as well as a password so that you can access it yourself. In addition to your information, you can enter information on an emergency contact, your primary care physician, and your preferred hospital.
How would I let my doctors know my advanced directive is registered online?
When you register your advanced directive, the registry allows you to print out a card with a PIN number on it. You need to keep this card with you somewhere safe. Most people keep it in their wallet. Sometimes people even get medical ID bracelets with the information on it. VirginiaAdvancedDirectives.org, the website we've talked about before, features a crisis card on that site, and it functions as a mini advanced directive with instructions on how to find your full advanced directive or your wrap plan.
I'm not very computer savvy, and I probably would not use the online registry. What can I do to make sure people know about my advanced directive?
While the registry is, in our opinion, the best way to make your advanced directive known, you should also distribute physical copies of your advanced directive to your doctors and your loved ones. But if you give people your physical copies of your advanced directive, make sure you keep a list of who has a copy, because if you ever need to make changes to your advanced directive later, you'll want to make sure everyone has the most recent version. Like we said earlier, you can distribute physical copies of your advanced directive in addition to registering it online.
If my needs change later and I want to change my advanced directive, can I do that?
Absolutely. Regular reviewing and updating your advanced directive is the best way to ensure that it reflects your current wishes and needs. You can revise your advanced directive by writing on the form, creating an addendum with new information, or rewriting the document entirely. Make sure, though, that you initial and date your changes.
Once I've made changes, do I need to re-register my advanced directive all over again?
No, you don't have to do that, but you will need to update your document on the registry. You should also make sure that you give updated copies to anyone who received a physical copy of the original document.
Could I get rid of my advanced directive entirely?
Sure, you can get rid of your advanced directive by revoking it. And you can revoke it in a number of ways, however you choose to do it. It's best to do this in the presence of someone else so that there's a witness that can verify that you did revoke it and that nobody forced you to do it. So in order to revoke the document, you can physically destroy it, you can mark through it, you can feed it to your dog. As long as every copy of your advanced directive is destroyed or clearly states that it's revoked, you should be fine. Of course, you should tell your agent, your loved ones, and providers that you've revoked your advance directive. If you put your advance directive on the registry, don't forget to revoke it on the registry as well. Thanks for joining us. As always, if you have questions that aren't covered in these videos, feel free to give us a call at 1-800-552-3962. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
If you would like to discuss your disability rights issue, please call the Disability Law Center of Virginia. Our intake hours are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8:30 to 4 p.m. You can call us at 1-800-552-3962, or you can email us at info@dlcv.org. Thanks for watching. This video contains general information for educational purposes. This should not be considered legal advice. It is not a comprehensive statement of the law and may not reflect more recent legal developments. If you have specific questions concerning any matter contained in this video, or if you need legal advice, please consult with an attorney.